Athletes, collectives are not just gonna give you money. So if your hand is always like this, you're probably never gonna get anything back in return because you didn't bring anything to the table. And most times the collectives weren't paying for a service, they were just cash in, cash out, cash in, cash out. Adding a collective as part of your org chart as an athlete, that's a partner. And what do you want that partner to do, and what can you do for that partner? This is the business of athletes. If you don't understand how the money moves, you don't understand the game. In this athlete, sports world, NIL era, we often hear about many different players, right? Like agents, collectives, sports businesses, marketing agencies, all these people who are part of the athlete world. Today, I really want to talk about collectives, right? Everybody has a different viewpoint on what a collective is, what they're supposed to do, why they succeed, why they failed. I was part of a collective, and truth be told, I saw why they didn't work out how they intended to, because we have to get it to a level where we have to understand that a collective is not a donor-based entity, right? They're not there to just secure donor funds. They're operating and they're working with businesses. They have a portfolio of businesses. So imagine this. Imagine you are a real estate investor and you just secured an apartment complex, and there are 50 doors that are vacant. Are you looking for people to donate to help you with the apartment? Or are you looking for people to pay money to fill that, to cash flow your apartments? I'm hoping you think about it from the latter, right? So athletes are your apartments. Your school that you are associating with becomes your apartment complex, and each athlete is a revenue generating asset. But instead, collectives really focused on securing donors and donations and some charitable injections of cash, because they wanted to support the athletes at their school, at their own mater. In the NIL space, we're not supporting athletes. We're trying to grow and scale businesses that create a return. So when I was with the collective, my focus truly was learning more about the athlete, understanding what they wanted to do, where they were trying to go, what were their interests, their hobbies, where they was from, right? What they liked and didn't like, because I didn't see them as a charity or a entity that needed a handout, right? But a lot of collectives in the NIL space are talking about these athletes as if they are in dire need. We should be looking at them as businesses, of course, but not from a lens of a booster, not from the lens of, this is Little League and we got to bring the snacks and all those things. It's literally, okay, I'm sitting this athlete down. I want to learn more about them because my job is now to go out there and secure more money. Simple. You are the general manager, right? You are the orchestrator of revenue. It's not, I have to go and get all these donors to give me money so that we can give to athletes. You're not giving anything, you're paying for a service. And most times the collectives weren't paying for a service, they were just cash in, cash out, cash in, cash out. And that created a problem, and of course the IRS started to crack down on them because they were not operating from a business, they were operating from a charity, but they weren't doing charitable activities, right? So what I would say is collectives have to really start to look at athletes are a business. They have a personal brand. They have a public platform, right? These guys are coming in and they're gaining followers because they are they're noticeable, right? They have a market rate, like people want to pay them for their services, although most of them haven't learned how to package their services and whatnot. So as a collective, your mindset needs to shift from donor, from booster, from charity to business to business partner with an athlete, and how can we sign or buy or grow with this entity that I want to scale with because they are supporting my school. They are at my school because the alumni, they make the collective. They are the founders usually of a collective that they love their school, but they have to start operating from a standpoint of, I want to run this as a business and not a charity. And not all collectives operate in that way, but just from my experience and seeing why most collectives don't grow is because, one, you're fighting against the school because you guys are fighting for the same dollars, and you're not looking at the people who you're working with as businesses, right? Because it's like, oh, well, I really want to support this guy. I really want to support this girl. I love her story. I love this story. I think like where they come from is so amazing. And it's like you're romanticizing the relationship and not operating from a business. And I thought it was crazy because most of the donors who are giving money are business people. They have business sense. They have business acumen. They have businesses that are generating millions and millions of dollars nationally. And I see, who's supporting their collectives over here and over here. I'm just like, how are you guys running a business, but then you're just giving money to the collective without any expectations of a return? And then it hit me. The delivery from the collective treated the collective money as, we have to support these athletes. So the trickle down effect was the collectives were approaching donors who are running businesses for a donation. And then the collectives are talking to the athlete as a charity and saying, hey, we're going to support you and we're going to pay you because we love your story. We saw where you come from. And the problem with that is that the athlete isn't looking at themselves as a business. So all they're doing is this without any thoughts of a return. So you have a business owner who's giving to a middleman, as a business owner who's giving to a middleman who's running a charity on paper to give to a athlete who's supposed to be a business and generating revenue, but they become a charity. So we're just giving money out with no money coming back in. So I would always like sit at home and just wonder like, man, what is going wrong, right? Because collectives across the nation, this is where all the numbers came from anyway. So you look at how many guys are getting paid, and then they're talking about these schools are paying the 20 millions and the 15 millions. All that money comes from donors. So if you're able to bring in this much revenue, the person in the middle has to have some sort of a business sense or some savviness to say, okay, once it come in, then it goes out. It has to come back in. But you're giving it to you're bringing it in, then you're giving it to an entity or a person or a pot of money that doesn't have the business acumen to say, once the money goes out, what am I going to do to bring in more money? Because nothing was set here. So for an athlete, I don't think you deserve to always do this, especially if you're not bringing something to the table, right? Yes, you're athletic. There's not many businesses who can put a quantifiable number on touchdowns, on interceptions, on pancake blocks, on 3-point shots, right? Because you can't say, if I give you $10,000 for every touchdown, that I'm going to make $10,500 back. So from a business side, yes, you're really good at athletics. You're really, really good. But what does that equate to financially? And most times nobody has a number on it because it's just like, I just love my school and I want to support my school and I want to help, guys, feed their families, right? Well, feeding your families is not 6 figures, right? Especially when you're on scholarship. So if we're going to operate a collective as a agency or a third party partner to the school, the collective, one, has to change their mindset on operations. the donors have to look at, I'm not donating, I'm doing business. But then the athlete has to also say, what am I going to provide this collective? What am I going to provide in exchange to them going out to sell on my behalf? And in a previous video, I mentioned about agents out there selling as a part of the athlete's org chart. Adding a collective as part of your org chart as an athlete, that's a partner. And what do you want that partner to do, and what can you do for that partner? Because in partnerships, it's a dual side. Give to get, quid pro quo. So if a collective is only looking at you as a charity, you're not going to get what you believe you're worth. And the collective, you're not going to achieve the things that you're trying to achieve because you're not supporting them. You're just enabling them to create bad habits, because giving them money with no expectations does what? It sets them up for an unrealistic viewpoint on life. No one in life is just giving you money without expecting something in return. But collectives, I believe, in closing this whole series or segment, is the reason why they didn't scale or they don't scale is because they're not looking at themselves as an agency managing a portfolio of athletes. They're simply saying, I want to support my school. You can support your school in other ways. You can support the athletes in other ways. But if you want to scale with an athlete and grow your business as a collective, you have to go from donor, booster, funded, to look at yourself as a revenue generating source and a partner of the athletes. Because if not, you're setting them up for failure. And as you've seen over the years, you set yourself up for failure too, where now you got to switch over and become an agency. And most of these collective people who work for the collectives aren't agency minded, so they don't know how to go out and secure a deal, which means you probably won't make enough money to be sustainable to actually grow with an athlete. So if I was to start a collective from today, my first thing would be, what am I providing to the market? What am I offering them? And which athlete can I partner with who's willing to grow with my business? And as an athlete, if I'm not getting chosen by the collectives, it's probably because I have nothing to offer them. And that's the reality of the business side, because collectives do serve a great point, a valuable part in the system, but they're operating so backwards because you're on the outside. You have outside leverage with inside relationships, and all you're doing is looking for donations. It's kind of backwards. So going forward, collectives should be viewing themselves as an agency. They should be operating a portfolio, managing athletes, and the only athletes that should be part of a collective are athletes who bring value, not athletes who just happen to have a story and you want to support. There are organizations out there in the world who will support a sad story. Collectives, we support a business. We support growth, sustainability, resource sources, revenue generation, protection, operation, not handouts. Athletes, collectives are not just going to give you money. So if your hand is always like this, you're probably never going to get anything back in return because you didn't bring anything to the table. Like, comment, and subscribe. This is the business of athletes. If you don't understand how the money moves, you don't understand the game.